Hello viewers, welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to learn about the Puritan age. I will give you a gist of this age with its important writers and their works. You can use these notes to prepare for your NET exams and PG entrance exams. Yes, so let's get started. The Puritan age is regarded as the second and greater Renaissance, a rebirth of the moral nature of man following the intellectual awakening of Europe in the 15th and the 16th centuries. This age is also known as the Age of Milton. So let us see some pointers that describe the Puritan age. Puritan age is the second greatest Renaissance. Puritan age is divided into two classes. First is the Jacobean period in which James I was the ruler, and the second is the Caroline period in which Charles I was the ruler. Puritans had deep moral beliefs. Poetry was the vehicle of spiritual awakening. This period was rich in prose, but drama was completely declined in this period. Now let us see some major writers or poets of this age. We need to remember the names: John Milton, secondly John Bunyan, Robert Burton, Thomas Browne, Jeremy Taylor, and Richard Baxter. Remember these names and it's enough. Now let us see, there were three groups of poets in this era. First was the Spenserian poets, second group was metaphysical poets, and the third was Cavalier poets. Now let us see Spenserian poets. Some of the important poets who styled themselves after the school of Spenser are known as Spenserian poets. These poets were Phineas Fletcher, Giles Fletcher, George Wither, William Ground, William Drummond. Now let us see who were the Cavalier poets. These were a group of English gentleman poets who gathered at the court of Charles I. Because of their loyalty and support for him, they were called Cavaliers. So the supporters of Charles I are known as Cavaliers. Remember this. Major Cavalier poets of this age are Robert Herrick. He was the disciple of Ben Jonson. His work is Hesperides, or the work of both human and divine of Robert Herrick. There were also a group of religious poems famously known as noble numbers. Second Cavalier poet is Thomas Carew. He is best known for his amorous and sensual lyrics such as Ask Me No More Where Jove Bestows, He That Loves a Rosy Chick. Remember the names of the works. His erotic poem, A Rapture, is considered to be the best and longest poem of his poems. You may get questions like name Thomas Carew's longest poem. So you have to remember the name. Then comes John Suckling. He is the most prominent among the 17th century Cavalier poets. In 1637, Suckling wrote the prose work Account of Religion by Reason. His best known play is Aglaura, published in 1638. It was performed twice for Charles I, having two different endings. Remember, you can get questions like which play was performed twice for King Charles I. So you have to remember the writer's name, John Suckling's Aglaura, and it's important that this play had two different endings. One was tragic and the other was happy. Then comes Richard Lovelace. Richard Lovelace was persecuted for his unflagging support of King Charles I, but not before writing the age's most melodic and moving lyrics, To Althea from Prison and To Lucaste Going to the Wars. Also, he wrote two major works, The Scholar and The Soldier. Now comes the metaphysical poets. These are very important writers. The term metaphysical as applied to poetry was first used by Dr. Johnson, remember this, who borrowed it from Dryden's phrase for dawn, he affects the metaphysics. Remember this phrase also, it's very important. The metaphysical poets were men of learning, and to show their learning was their full endeavor. Let us see the characteristics of the metaphysical poets and poetry. delight in noble thoughts and expressions. They used to see far-fetched images, obscurity, very difficult to understand. It was not very much possible for common people to understand their language, their poetry, to show how much they have learned. The poets were very much interested in showing that how much they are learned, and the poems were highly religious and amorous. These are the characteristics of metaphysical poets and poetry. Now let us see some metaphysical poets. First is John Donne, very important. John Donne was the founder of metaphysical school of poetry. He is the greatest of the poets of the school. His works include songs, satires and sonnets. Also elegies, which were published posthumously in about 1633. His poetry is divided into two groups actually. By mistake I have written three. First is amorous poetry, Air and Angels, a nocturne upon S. Lucy's Day, a valediction forbidding mourning, and ecstasy, the flea. Then second group is the religious poems. In religious poems comes Batter My Heart, a hymn to God, the Father, satire poems of the progress of the soul. Remember his quote, "A poet who knew the anguish of the marrow," written for dawn by T.S. Eliot in Whispers of Immortality. Then comes George Herbert. George Herbert was born on April 3rd, 1593, the fifth son of an eminent Welsh family. Welsh family is a very known and rich family of that time. He wrote holy sonnets to his own mother. His other works includes A Priest to the Temple, he died of consumption in 1633 at the age of 40. Then comes Richard Crashaw. Richard Crashaw, born around 1613 in London. He was the son of a Puritan preacher. It was during his graduation he wrote Epigrammatum Sacrorum Liber, a book of sacred epigrams. He has written another famous poem called The Hamming Heart. Next is Henry Vaughan. He was royalist who used first slant line or half line rhyme poetry. Remember, this is important. The writer who used half line rhyme in his poetry is Henry Vaughan. He was a noted religious metaphysical poet. In 1646, he published poems with 10 satire of juvenile English. It is believed that his greatest poem is Silex and Scintillance. With the the first part came in 1650 and its second part came in 1655. His another important work is The World. Then comes the most important, John Milton. English poet and polemist, was born in London in 1608. He studied at St. Paul's School and Christ College, Cambridge. Milton became friends with Edward King, to whom he later dedicated the Lycidas. Lycidas is his important work. Milton's other poems include On the Morning of Christ's Nativity, Epitaph of the Admirable Poets, W. Shakespeare. During the same period, he also wrote two companion poems which were his biggest hits, that is El Aligro, which means a happy man, and El Pensero, which means a sad man. He got married to Mary Powell, who was almost half of his age. This relationship was a sad one, which inspired him to write his divorced tracts. It argued for separation on the grounds of incompatibilities. You may get question, which writer wrote on the ground of separation or on the theme of divorce? Then you need to write Milton, because he was not in a good relationship with his wife. Milton later married twice again to Catherine Woodcock in 1656, who died giving birth, and in 1658 she died, and Elizabeth Minkle in 1662. Milton was appointed as the Secretary for Foreign Towns by the Council of States in March 1649. He wrote Iconoclates and Defensio pro Populo Anglicano during this period. So that was about Milton, and now we would know about his later period. After restoration of Charles II, Milton was arrested as a defender of the Commonwealth. He was fined and soon released. He spent rest of his years writing his masterpieces. That is Paradise Lost, which is very important, Paradise Regained, and Samson Agonistes. There's a note. Lycidas was a pastoral elegy which was published in 1638. So friends, I hope it's helpful to you, and if you like the video, please hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more such informative videos. Thank you.